Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Wow, what an interesting ride this morning, class. So, the way it works is I'll call Rick Miller, just before the broadcast, maybe 15, 20, 30 minutes sometimes 5 minutes before the broadcast, we'll chat about some of the topics that Rick has found, some that I've found, and it'll be like a real quick game plan as to some of the things that we each think are important. So I picked up the phone this morning and I called Rick. And so what do I get? Fast busy. Must be me. I must have misdialed. Let me try it again. So I dial again. And then, so Rick calls me. Same thing. Fast busy. So there's definitely a problem with the connection. Now I'm talking landline right now. Or long distance and landline between Missouri and Oregon. Now, is that unusual? It's never happened before. Now we've had phone service outages, but not dial tone where I can call a local number, just the 7 digits for local numbers. I can call them, but I couldn't get long distance. So that was interesting. And that brings to mind something that I think is pretty important. There are several very important topics that we're going to discuss today with Dr. Richard Allen Miller, docram.com. Also, richardallenmiller.com, Richard, A-L-A-N, Miller.com. So I'm looking at a story, Rick, and it says it's on Zero Hedge. DOD, that would be Department of Defense. Department of Defense plans solar storm-based national blackout drill during Antifa protests in November. And it says, according to the National Association for Amateur Radio, now the abbreviation for them is ARRL, elements in the U.S. Department of Defense will simulate a communications interoperability training exercise across the United States November 4th through November 6th. That's this weekend. The announcement was released on October 24th, has not been widely distributed to the media because the drill is simulating a total grid collapse and could spark public fear. So they're not going to tell the public because it could spark public fear. Well, wait till these guys do this and see if it sparks public fear. So the exercise will begin with a national massive coronal mass ejection event, which will impact the national power grid as well as all forms of traditional communication, including landline telephone, cell phone, satellite, internet connectivity. The article goes on to say, and this is Zero Hedge, in July we warned about the U.S. government quietly preparing for a massive coronal mass ejection with the passage of an executive order coordinating efforts to prepare the nation for space weather events. That's what they say. Now, space weather events in the form of solar flares, solar energetic particles, geomagnetic disturbances occur regularly with some measurable effects on critical infrastructure systems such as technologies such as global positioning system, that's GPS, satellite operations and communication, aviation, and electrical power and the electrical power grid. Extreme space weather events, those that could significantly degrade critical infrastructure, could disable large portions of the electrical power grid, resulting in cascading failures that would affect key services such as water supply, healthcare, transportation. Space weather has the potential to simultaneously affect and disrupt health and safety across the entire continents. Successfully preparing for space weather events is an all-of-nation endeavor that requires partnerships across governments, emergency managers, academia, the media, the insurance industry. Really? The insurance industry? What do those guys have to do with it? Nonprofits and the private sector. This is what is in the article. Rick, I'm very concerned about this little drill that they're going to have. Actually, it's a massive drill, and I don't quite understand how they're going to pull it off.
This is good morning, Vincent. This is what was predicted early last year in November of this year, and here we are. And I am now making a call to all combat vets: lock and load. Korea just got nuked, as far as I can tell, and right now the California fires were a drill to test that new particle beam weapon. Here we are. I posted that on Facebook just this morning when I talked about it with Rents last night. We are in the middle of something going on that is more than just a false flag. Right now.
Rick, as you say this, as I've been reading these articles and these posts, I'm very concerned. And I had this discussion with Mrs. Finelli days ago. And actually, over the last several days, we've been talking about this. And, the family and I went and topped off on some of our provisions in anticipation for this. So, for example, some people might say, well, you know what, if it gets really bad, I'll just heat with wood. I've got an old fireplace. I'll just fire that thing up. Okay. All right. Unless you've done it, you have no idea how much wood it takes to heat a house. You have no idea. Seriously. We use about 7 cords of wood. 7 cords. That would probably be, I don't know, 20 pickup truck loads of wood. We cut the wood that's fallen down in the woods, pull it out of the woods with a tractor and chains, then cut it up with a chainsaw. So it's as simple as this. Does your chainsaw work? Great. Do you have gas for it? Great. Do you have oil for it? Great. Is the chain sharp? Great. How's your back? Because that stuff's heavy.
Yeah, and none of us are ready for that part of it, of the physical demands that are going to be required when it does actually literally happen. It'll be in pieces.
Yes, and then there are the little things. I mean, little things like, Rick, all I wanted to do was call you this morning. That's all I wanted to do. And it was impossible. I could not make that happen.
I couldn't get you either.
There was no way.
Multiple times I tried your son. The one time I did get GNC, thank you. He took care of it. He's a good man.
Yep, he is. He really is. We have a wonderful team at Genesis Communications Network. And, class, it's the 4th largest radio network in the country, and it's the largest alternative network in the country. And then we're also picked up by Republic Broadcasting, John Stadtmiller's organization, which is another wonderful organization.
I really appreciate all of them and what they're doing.
Yeah,
I really do.
And they're willing to,
Vincent, for mentioning them.
They're willing to stick their necks out and allow us to say the things that we say. And class, let me just say this, and we're going to talk about some serious topics, but I have never, ever been guided, coerced, instructed, steered, manipulated into saying or not saying things on this broadcast, USA Prepares. John Stadtmiller has never said anything about,
never.
What are you, out of your mind? No, he's never done anything like that or even hinted at it, okay? And neither has Ted Anderson or anyone else at Genesis Communications Network. They let me say whatever I want, and our instructors say whatever they want. You know, they encourage us not to use profanity, but we don't. So those are the side comments I have. But this Department of Defense test
Let's
that they're
shift
doing.
over and talk about Korea for a minute. Just what you understand may have just happened.
Okay, my understanding from sources that I've talked to is that we, United States, has nuked North Korea. We, if you put the pieces together, well, we got kind of annoyed with Kim and his threatening us and testing nuclear devices, over and over and over. And finally, I guess I believe we showed them what a small nuke can do, and blew up their tunnel system where their testing was going on in the mountain. I think we just collapsed it for them, and 100 people plus another 200 people were buried in this.
And this is the United States that did this.
Yeah,
with our fleet of
that's what
aircraft carriers and the rest of it off the shore.
Yeah, that's what my sources are telling me. Is that what you're hearing too, Rick?
That's exactly correct. Yeah, the radiation pattern and the spikes that have occurred, yes.
And I've been looking at that too. I've been looking at netc.com, and all of a sudden I'll see Radcon 3, Radcon 4 popping up all over the United States. Then they'll go away, and then they'll come back in different places. And it's very disconcerting. So what I've read, and this is just my research, has said that this event released a serious amount of radioactivity into the environment, very much like that from Chernobyl, very much like that from Fukushima. Now, let's not forget what we've done in the United States at 3 Mile Island, and then way prior to that, we were blowing up atomic bombs, nuclear devices on the Bikini Atolls. We destroyed them. In our own country, we did above ground atomic testing, below ground atomic testing. We've detonated nuclear devices, I believe, in the ocean. I can't prove it, but I believe we have. And so there's radiation that we have released. And then I guess we said to North Korea, tell you what, we've already done all those tests. We don't need any more radiation. So we're just going to try one more time, show you what it's like. We're going to release some more. Now don't do it anymore, guys. I think that's what we said to North Korea when I believe we nuked them. And I'm not the only one who feels this way. We'll be right back. Class, your dial is set correctly to USA Prepares. I'm Vincent Finelli. Rick Miller's with us. Dr. Richard Allen Miller. Nathan's engineering the broadcast at Genesis Communications Network in Minnesota. And we're talking about, North Korea and also the Department of Defense's plans as we have read them on Zero Hedge and other sites on the Internet that say that there's going to be a test this weekend, a massive series of tests all across the United States to simulate a massive grid down situation, communications down situation that involves landline, cell phones, all types of communications except for ham radio. Ham radio will, if you have a ham radio rig and if you have a method of powering that, such as, a 12-volt car battery, that kind of thing, and you've got it set up with an antenna and so forth, you may be able to communicate, unless they actually do simulate an EMP with an EMP. Now, if there's a nuclear device that's tested, over the central part of the country, and it takes down the grid for real, we may not come back from this for a decade or 2 or 3. Do you agree with that, Rick?
I don't know what's going to happen. Yes, who knows? With what I'm sensing, what I'm getting in terms of information, it's not good.
Mm-hmm. What I said was that if we actually do unleash a real electromagnetic pulse over the central part, like Denver, that area, and it takes down the grid, it's going to be very difficult to recover from it. And I don't think it's going to, if they really do it, and they really take down the grid, it'll be really serious.
Well,
this
this
kind
is
of thing
why
is
they
very
did
difficult.
The Agenda 21, getting us prepped for this event. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm concerned.
I'm really concerned because one stupid guy, in a seat of power. And I'm not saying this is Donald Trump. I don't know who it is. And I'm not even pointing to Donald Trump. And I'm not saying he's stupid. But I'm saying one stupid guy, one ignorant guy, one person who's ignorant of the facts of what this would really do, in a seat of power, could cause this domino effect within the right group of people to let this go off. Let this test go off.
Yeah, like the Dr. Strangelove thing. It could be just as simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about. And then, just trying to call you this morning, class, I want you to think about that. So you have an emergency. You've got someone in the hospital, or you can't find your son or daughter, and they were supposed to call you 2 hours ago. And you go, you know what? I didn't hear from our son.
You need a plan right now on what to do if and when communications are just abruptly cut off. You need to have a go plan.
All right. Let's talk about one of those plans, and I've got one. And I think this is important. So, class, here's what you do. You go to that location in your state that has free maps. That would be like the trade, the Visitors Bureau, that kind of an organization. They have free state maps. And you get one for each one of your family. Everybody gets the same exact version of the map. Okay? And on that map, you take highlighters, like a yellow one, a green one, and a blue one. And what you do is you pick one color, and that is the main route. That's the route you're going to take to get from here to there. Now, what are we talking about? Well, from home to work, from home to school. The paths that you regularly take, you highlight on that map with the first color, which is your primary route. Then you agree on the second color for your second choice. And then the third color is your third choice. Now, before you leave home, you say to the family, okay, I'm going to school, or I'm going to work, or I'm going shopping to Sam's Club, or wherever it may be. And then from there, I'm coming directly home. And here's the route I'm going to take. And this is what you do before you leave. And you make sure everybody knows. That way, if you don't come home on time, and if there's a search party that goes out looking for you a couple hours later, they know what route to look for you on. Okay? And you've got to tell them where you're going and when you expect to be back. Now, the colors are for your regular, routes for going to work and school and so forth. So they know on their map the same colors are indicated with the same routes as your map. Got it? That's the plan. We'll be right back. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us, class. Rick, we're talking about North Korea. We were talking about the Department of Defense's test that may happen this weekend. Now, do we really know that it's going to happen? The answer is no, we don't. We don't. But our sources have been telling us that they're planning this test. And I think it's extremely serious.
Well, I just posted on the DOD plans. I posted that on the 27th when it first came out, and everybody should read that. The plans for a solar storm-based national blackout drill, and this is the Army Mars program. The program manager is Paul English, and everybody remember those names. And that's what's going on. Now, I just posted this morning a video that shows more detail on the Northern California fires in Santa Rosa. And you have to see this to understand exactly what a particle beam weapon can and cannot do right now with accuracy. Look at the precision of one home over another that was taken out by DOD. And I'm going to say that this is probably, most likely, part of the EU program with Agenda 21, because they went in there a month before and mapped it out. And there it is, right like that. And that video covers it all very clearly. Now that's at docram.com or my website, which is Gang Gun 2. I also now have a front page with Kerry Cassidy and Jeff Rentz. I'm going to say that we're in the middle of something seriously going on. And I don't have a clue what it's about. I'm just an old man with no toys and a few best guesses. That's all I can do. And I am extremely concerned right now. The full moon that's happening this weekend is usually the trigger that's used to start these kinds of events.
Rick, you're talking about the full moon making people loony?
No, I'm talking about throughout history, we have, whenever we do anything like a war or a battlefield, it is always triggered with celestial objects and the moon. Always.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's magic. I don't care what you want to call it. That has been since recorded history. Not lunar, not lunacy, lunacy and things like that. It has to do with the types of energy on timing when you do something and why. And the moon is right now going to be possibly the closest to Earth this year.
Okay, so how would that affect
your behavior and lines?
Yeah.
And I can only fathom just the amount I do and why I have, right out of the gate from graduate school, studied this stuff, and the reason why all bureaucracies have secret lodges within them. Most of them don't even have a clue in terms of goat turds from pork and beans. However, the Republican Party is just typical of it. And I can tell you there's something else going on here, and I am doing the best I can to try to ferret it out, and I can't get there. This look at the video of what happened in Santa Rosa. I mean, this is precision weaponry. And it's quite, just the video pretty much says it all, where you see one half of the car has melted to such a point that the glass is gone, and yet the other part of the car is completely undamaged. How does that work?
Rick, you're talking about the images, just like the images we saw at the World Trade Center, right? Where one part of the car would be...
Yeah, Building 7, when that steel girder in Building 7, that 617-foot steel girder started to fall in free fall and vaporize. Listen, that was the first deployment of a new weapon that we have that I've tried to write about and cannot find anyone to publish it. And I have it detailed. I'll send you again. You can post it on your site. It runs it down chapter and verse, precisely how it works. And we are deploying that weapon. Well, when I say we, excuse me, Israel is deploying that weapon everywhere in Golan Heights and Afghanistan. It's everywhere. The Russia has that weapon now. They deployed that a few months back up in the Urals. I don't know what to say. I'm speechless. And now, with what's going on with DEFCON 4 off of North Korea's shores, with 3 aircraft carrier and a bunch of battleships, what is going on? And why is the American public not being informed? Well, you just have to connect the dots. You tell me what you come up with. We're being invaded.
Mm-hmm. Let me read this post from ARRL headquarters. It's called that's American Radio Relay League, bulletin number 19 from ARRL headquarters in Connecticut, October 24, 2017. And this is addressed to all radio emitters. And that would be me. I'm one of them. I have a ham license. And it says that it's ARLB 019, Communications Interoperability Training with Amateur Radio Community Set, paragraph. Elements of the U.S. Department of Defense, DoD, will conduct a communications interoperability training exercise November 4 through 6. Once again, simulating a very bad day scenario. Amateur Radio and Mars, MARS organization will take part.
That's the Army.
This exercise will begin with a national, massive coronal mass ejection event, which will impact the national power grid as well as all forms of traditional communication, including landline, telephone, cell phone, satellite, and internet connectivity. Army Mars Program Manager Phil English, WD8DBY, explained in an announcement. During the exercise, a designated Department of Defense headquarters entity will request county-by-county status reports for the 3,143 U.S. counties and county equivalents in order to gain situational awareness and determine the extent of impact of the scenario. Army and Air Force Mars organizations, MARS, will work in conjunction with the amateur radio community, particularly on the 60-meter interoperability channels, as well as high-frequency NVIS frequencies and local VHF and UHF non-internet linked amateur radio repeaters. Again, this year, a military station on the East Coast and the Fort Huacha, Arizona HF station will conduct high-powered broadcast on 60-meter channel 1, which is 5,330.5 kilohertz on Saturday from 0300 to 0315 UTC.
That's exactly the moment of the full moon.
Continues on. New this year will be an informational broadcast on Saturday on 13485.5 kilohertz USB from 1600 to 1615 UTC.
Amateur radio. Come the media hasn't alerted the public? What's going on? Why are they doing it this way?
Yeah, and this came out from, the Amateur Radio Relay League, right? This come from Ham Central, if you will. Let's see. Let me get back to where I was.
I have a concern.
Okay. Sure. Okay. Amateur radio operators should monitor these broadcasts for more information about the exercise and how they can participate in this communications exercise, English said. Paragraph. We want to continue building on the outstanding cooperative working relationship with the ARRL, Amateur Radio Community, English said. We want to expand the use of the 60-meter interop channels between the military and the amateur community for emergency communications, and we hope that the amateur radio community will give us some good feedback on both the 5 megahertz laptop and the new 13 megahertz broadcast channels as a means of information dissemination during a very bad day scenario. Contact Paul English for more information or questions about this exercise via email at mars.exercises.gmail.com. That is the post from ARRL, October 24th, 2017.
Yeah, let's see what they say. I have a sense of what's going to happen next. I'm very concerned, and with what happened in North Korea and what happened in Santa Rosa, here we are.
I'm looking at a map, and we'll talk about. This looks like the Refuse Fascism map. It begins November 4th Well, it looks like Portland, San Francisco Bay Area, Los Angeles, Austin, Omaha, Chicago, Cleveland, Pittsfield, Pennsylvania, Boston, New York City, Philadelphia, and Atlanta.
My name is Lee and I'm 41. I've been using One World Wave for 2.5 years now. I suffered a bulged L4 and L5 disc.
Hey, Nathan, is anyone else talking about this?
No.
I've been unable to walk long distances.
I didn't get it with Jeff Rentz last night. I may not get it with Terry Cassidy Tuesday.
Since I've started using One World Way, I've been able to walk more.
I don't know what's going on, but my hackles on the back of my neck says, my gut tells me this is it. I don't know that, but I sense it.
My A1C dropped 2 points, and
It just, let's talk about why this doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right to me because how is it possible to simulate an event like this? How does that happen?
How do they jam all the radio? How do they do that in communication? How do they jam it?
Well, okay, my question is, how do they jam it without jamming it? Okay,
that's exactly
what
correct.
I'm saying. Because, and I'll share this with our broadcast classroom. For 6 years, I've been asking people to just do a dry run, a fire drill, where they just shut the breakers off on the panel for 3 hours. And right, but they won't do it. What I'm saying is, people will not shut their power off just to see what it's like for their family. Now, how would this work if we were going to have this dry run, this drill, and we say, okay, so just pretend your cell phones don't work. Nobody's going to do that. Okay, just go shut off your lights. Yeah, and Tom is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. And, I'm sorry, Patrick's engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. And Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. And during the break, Rick and I were talking about something, and let's share with you our thoughts. And they go something like this. So the Department of Defense is going to plan this national blackout drill. Okay. How do you do that? And here's why I'm asking. I'm pretty darn confused. Because for about 6 years now, I have been asking people who come to our meetups, people who come to the seminars that I lead when I travel, and I talk about preparedness. Rick and I have been to some of the same events. I talk about, preparing. And okay, so we'll turn off the breaker box, most of the circuits in our house, and we'll let the refrigerator keep running so we don't spoil our food. And we'll do this on Friday night at 6 o'clock, after we've been home for about a half hour. And we know the power is going to go out at 6 o'clock. Why? Because we're going to shut it off ourselves. And we're going to do a little drill, and we're going to put some tape over the faucets, the flush handle of the toilet, and the refrigerator, just to remind us that those things aren't working. And so for the next 3 hours, we do this little drill. And we sit there in the dark, and we go, wow, this is no fun. And we write down the things that we don't like. And so when it really happens, we have the preparedness plan and items and tools and food and water and all the things that we want for our survival and need for our survival. We've got them at the ready because we've had this little drill. Well, no one has ever done it. Now, I've talked about it until I'm hoarse, and people go, yeah, what a great idea, but they don't do it. I know they don't do it because I ask them, how did it go? Oh, I didn't do it. Okay, so they don't do it. Now, if they don't do it for 3 hours on their own for their own home with their own family, and they're too lazy to do it, or they're too busy to do it, watching TV or whatever they're doing, or they just don't feel like it because it's an inconvenience, if they won't do it, people that I've explained this to for hour upon hour upon hour, how is it possible that the Department of Defense is going to do this? Are they going to say, all right, okay, y'all, so just we're going to pretend that your lights don't work, so here's what you do. Don't turn your light switch on. That will simulate a power outage. Really? So you really think people are going to do that? And y'all, look, cell phones, just turn them off, okay? And put them in the garage, or put them in your car, or put them someplace where you can't look at them, for like a couple hours. Do you think people are going to do that? I'm telling you, no one's going to do it.
So how do they do it?
That's the whole point, Rick. Thank you for saying that. How are they going to do it? How are they going to do
that? They got to switch.
Well, the only way I can think of that they're going to do it is to do it. Because people are too lazy, too self-centered to actually participate in their own drill. They won't do it for themselves. So, and the media hasn't been covering this very well. So the only way they can actually do this little drill, if they're going to do it, is to do it. Is to actually take down the grid. Wow.
Now that is kind of creepy. How can they do that?
Well, all right.
Yeah, exactly.
I have been in, let me explain just a tiny, tiny micro dot of information about what the government can do. I have a dear friend who is in the radio business. And my dear friend told me that at a radio station, and this would be just one example of all the radio stations, the federal government has the ability to take over remotely the radio station. Now hear this. This is your federal government speaking. To keep you all safe, here's what we're going to do. They can take over the radio station.
Yeah, but how come Congress didn't approve that? Who's doing it?
That's right. Who is running the ship, or the series of ships? And I think Trump is finding out that there are a whole bunch of little groups doing their own things. We'll be right back. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. Hour number 2, USA Prepares. Rick, we were talking about the California wildfires, and you were talking about a particle beam, and we were talking about how there is a similarity between the burned vehicle images in the California wildfires and the images that we've seen on the internet from the 9/11 buildings disappearing. Pieces of paper on the street, unburned, cars burned partially but not completely. Very, very strange scenarios, because I can tell you that I've seen cars on fire. And I have never seen a car fire where the car didn't completely burn. Okay? What I'm saying is, when a car catches on fire, if the fire department doesn't put it out immediately, the hood is burned, the paint's gone, the tires are burned, the alloy wheels are melted into a puddle of molten metal. The engine block, the parts of it that are aluminum, are melted into a puddle. That's what happens when you have a car fire. Yeah, but the glass
doesn't turn to slag. The glass in the windshield does not turn to slag. There are some pictures of slag. How does that work?
Yeah. Yeah, this is very, very strange. What I'm saying, it's not normal. It's not normal. And in the case of the 9/11 buildings disappearing, the things that are very unusual is, where did the hot water heaters go? Where did the toilets go? The porcelain toilets. Where did the steel go? Where did the sinks, the porcelain sinks, go? Just kind of disappeared.
There's only one thing in nature that does that, and that's a plasma. We have a new energy beam weapon. And in case of 9/11, with buckyballs using deuterium inside it, being ignited by a teleportation laser, now you have no forensics.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? I was in the shower this morning, and there's something about the sound of the water, which is kind of like, because the high pressure, low volume shower head. And I was thinking about technology. And I was thinking about bending space-time. And I was thinking about technology that is right here, right now. Like these self-driving automobiles. And I was thinking about combining the technologies. Not that I want to. I'm just thinking that the other team, is probably already got people working on combining these technologies. Let me give you an example. So you get behind the wheel of a vehicle, your new electric vehicle, which has all these wonderful technologies and satellite communications and all that kind of cool stuff, allegedly. And there's a facial recognition camera, on your dash now. So you get behind the wheel and it says, oh, that's okay. I recognize this person as being on the approved list to operate this vehicle. And it goes off and sends that image to the police and to the federal government, to the state government. And it comes back, this person is suspected of a possible thought crime. So now the doors lock, the vehicle starts up and heads to the nearest impound yard. And the driver can't get out because the doors are locked. The vehicle's on its way to the police impound yard where it takes him and it keeps him locked up until the police come out, handcuff him, and put him in a cell for something that the system thinks he might have thought about. I'm not talking about actually committing a crime. I'm talking about the system thinking that this person who is behind the wheel, who is recognized by the facial recognition software provided by the camera on the dashboard. Okay, that's one scenario. Another scenario is, so you get in the car with your buddy, and your buddy's recognized as someone who might have committed a thought crime. Or you're a nice guy, and you're traveling down the road, and you see this gal or guy, and it looks like they could surely use a ride because they've got their hood up on their vehicle, their old jalopy, and they're stuck on the side of the road, and you say, hey, got a problem? You need a lift? Yeah, boy, that'd be great. So this guy gets in your car, sits in the passenger seat, facial recognition camera sees that he's wanted for something. Your doors get locked, and off you go to the police impound yard. Rick, is this too far-fetched?
It's science fiction becoming science.
Yeah. So I'm going to keep driving my old jalopy without the satellite communications and without the automatic steering system that will take me to my destination. And here's another thing. I was reading about England, and there's some complaints about what they call free television in England. Well, the complaints that they're having, Rick, are because it's not working so well. There are times of the day and of the week that reception just becomes poor or non-existent in areas, and they can't fix it. Why? Because the weather, these high-pressure weather situations, cause the air to not transmit the television signals very well. So people are losing their ability to receive television communications, broadcasts, if you will, because of atmospheric conditions.
What do you think chemtrails are about in terms of aluminum and an energy beam weapon that ignites that as a nanoparticle in the air? What do you think that might do?
Well, I can tell you that I was talking to a medical doctor in Springfield, Missouri, and this particular doctor specializes in respiration. And she's telling me that they are overwhelmed with cases of respiratory problems, serious respiratory problems, okay, in the Springfield Village area, Springfield, Missouri. And I can tell you that I've been talking to people in person and on the phone about brain problems, people who are having brain hemorrhages, people who are having tumors, people who are having massive headaches, debilitating headaches, where they can't think. People are requiring brain surgery. I have heard more stories about brain problems in 1 year than I've heard in the previous 64 years of my life. A brain tumor was really, really, really rare. It was like leprosy. It was as rare as leprosy. Not anymore. Now brain tumors are becoming more common to hear about and more widespread across America. Of course, I attribute that to cell phones. But to this day, I can't get a single person, not one, to say, you know what? Let me throw it away. Heck. You know, in Austria, I'm sorry I'm on a tangent, but in Austria, they are putting up airbags on light posts. Okay, so let's say you're on the sidewalk and you see one of these city light posts. In Austria, some of them are made out of cast iron, so they're pretty rough. You know, if you walk into one, it'd probably be uncomfortable. Walking into a black painted cast iron made to stay, you know, decades, if not a century or more, light posts in the city. Well, people are walking into them. Why? Because they're distracted. Why are they distracted?
This 5G technology that they're now proposing in our neighborhoods for cell phones is actually, they claim this is like a directed energy beam weapon, lasers with high-powered microwaves and particle beams. They claim that this technology is new, that it was first directed as energy, and now being tested right now and in laboratories. And it's a fact that this advanced technology has always been suppressed from the public. Mm-hmm. And what is directed energy? How does directed energy weapons will actually work? How do they work? I have started writing about these things, and nobody will publish them. I can run it down to you, like using the whole concept of how a wave with exclusion zone water moves faster than the wave. That is where cold fusion processes start. That's an example in nature of cold fusion. That means, you know, normal energy working as a fusion project. And when you watch a tree in Santa Rosa burning from the inside out, I have to say we've got a new weapon being deployed right here and tested in America. And what was the body count? Who is responsible for this? And I'm going to call to arms all of our combat vets. You're unorganized, but listen, it's happening right now, and I would like to have a better explanation of what chemtrails are actually putting in our environment and why.
Well, Rick, let me ask you, have you heard of more people being sick than ever before in your entire life? Because I have. Myself
included. I have respiratory problems because of the crap. Yes, of course. It's not seasonal changes. No. All summer I've been ill.
Yes, me too. Me too. Classic series.
Is about a new weapon that Captain Kirk called a phaser.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And cooking from the inside up, burning a tree from the inside out.
That's microwave.
Okay, I was going to say, how is that any different from cooking a hot dog in a microwave oven? It's not. We'll be right back. Dr. Richard Allen Miller is with us. RichardAllenMiller.com. Richard, Miller.com. So, dailymail.co.uk. Here's an article. Lamp posts are covered in airbags to stop smartphone zombies from bumping into them as they walk around staring at their screens in Salzburg, Austria.
We have been programmed from our childhood to this moment for this moment.
Now, there's an
I've got something more to say. What made us God's favored is that we have choice, and what you decide to do now will determine what happens to all of us.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's an image of...
Yeah, the only answer lies with the first instinctual response that you have on what you feel is happening. That's your future timeline talking to the moment. Trust that. Your first gut response. Not your second logic one. Your first gut response. Start there. And that will be what saves you personally. You have a choice. Good luck.
Rick, I'm looking at this image on the internet. Now, there's a woman standing, looking down at her phone, walking. Okay. Now, right next to her is this lamppost, which is covered with an airbag. Now, this airbag, imagine the largest garbage can you've ever seen, okay? You know, a cylindrical garbage can. Imagine that. Well, this airbag is way bigger than that. This airbag is at least twice the width of this woman's shoulders. Okay? It's as tall as she is. So there's no danger of her walking into the lamppost with her face first, because she's going to hit the airbag first. It's a white airbag, and it looks like it has kind of a dusky blue print on it. And this is because, and I don't think it's just in Austria that people are mesmerized, intoxicated, and in a trance with their cell phones. I don't think it's just Austria. I think it's all over the globe. I got to tell you, I read a statistic that in 88% of the trips that people take in their automobiles in the United States, a cell phone is used in 88% of them. 88%.
Yeah,
now,
it's scary. I'm looking for something. When I find it, I'm going to share it. Give me a moment.
Okay.
Well,
think about that. And then also, class, how many of these new cars have these big screens on the dash, between the driver's seat and the passenger seat? These great big screens. Heck, you can look at those big screens to find out where you are, and you can talk on the phone and change your radio station. Whatever you're doing, you can do it on these great big screens. But you have to take your eyes off the road in order to do that. I think that's dangerous. I was talking to a young person. I couldn't believe this. I had to ask this person to repeat it, because it was beyond belief to me. So these two young people, millennials, are in a vehicle and they're on the interstate. And it's really great because with 4G cell phone reception, they could watch television on their smartphone while they're driving. Now, please, how important are these stoop comms and cooking shows and other TV series? How important are they as compared to paying attention to where you're going and how fast you're going, and deer in the road and objects in the road and other cars and vehicles and trucks and trailers? All that stuff's in the road, and you're traveling like 88 feet per second. And we're watching television. Now, I think those are crimes. And if we're going to have police do anything, I think we ought to arrest people who are driving distracted. We were next to this thing who was putting her makeup on, like a clown makeup, yesterday on the road. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. Richard, ALAN Miller.com. Rick, you've got an offering.
Something really important, Vincent, that you may want to use for ending this show.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, no, it's sent to Sandy. You take a look at it, you determine whether or not. It has to do with a movie that the publisher, it's called Adam, the Mirror. And it's the District 9 director's new short film offers a disturbing look at our future. And you want to see what a cell phone does to a human being? This guy's got it purposely. And
I just got your email
again on Facebook, and then I sent you a copy of the neutron fullerene fusion bomb and how it works. ABC for children to understand how it works.
Rick, why don't you just tell us?
From Carnegie Mellon, I write it all down. Feel free to publish. Oh, I'm just getting, another call. Imagine that. I've had enough.
Rick, why don't you tell us about...
I've had enough. You've got it. Sandy's got it now. That's it. Publish it. Go ahead. I dare you.
Okay. I'll be glad to.
Well, see how your people feel about how that all works. I wrote it up. chapter and verse. The one about fluorine water and olive oil got published 2 years ago in Nexus. That's Cliff High last week. But this one was also written on the darker side, and this is the physics of how it works, this new weapon.
Rick,
carbon, your shungite.
I've got the link. I will post it at usaprepares.com during the next break.
Look at our future, an AI future. With what we are becoming in the Matrix, this is an accurate science fiction portrayal of our future. And just like Star Trek, before we had 3D printer, we had a replicator. That's because our imagination is what directs us toward the weapons. And a particle beam weapon with microwave, here it is.
Rick, you mentioned Star Trek, and I was thinking about Star Trek, and what comes to mind is the absence of something. And here's what the absence is. When you watch Star Trek, now correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't seen every episode, but one thing that's missing is you don't see construction. Okay, you don't see anybody building anything. You don't see any factories making things, do you?
I don't remember any. Issues in Deep Star 9 where they were doing that, yes. But
no, I'm talking about the original. The original.
Yes, the original. No.
Yeah, and the original one, I don't remember any construction of any kind. What I'm talking about, brick masons, carpenters, steel workers, any kind of people doing. Or maybe they weren't even people. Any kind of...
announce in the beginning of each show that that's because man no longer needs those.
Okay, well, that's great. So that's where we're headed. I'm reading an article right now. It says, dailymail.co.uk, robots will take 600,000 of UK builders' jobs by the year 2040. That's kind of around the corner, right? 23 years from now. It'll take 600,000 builders' jobs. And it says by 2040 there will be just 15,500 carpenters and interior fitters, report found. There may be just 6,500 decorators in 20 years as compared to 110,000 now. While increased robotics and automation may take jumps, it will increase safety. Yeah, because people won't be doing anything. There'll be no risks because they won't be at lathes. They won't be at presses. They won't be handling concrete blocks. They won't be operating cement mixers. They won't be hammering nails and getting splinters, and they won't be hitting their thumbs with the hammer. We are removing from ourselves the ability to do things. Now, what happens when these machines break down and the guys who design these machines are no longer around and nobody can remember how to do anything? Wow. We may go down just by building machines to make our lives easier. But how do we buy the things that we need? How do we get that food? How do we get those stoves and ovens and refrigerators and houses and driveways and machines to transport us from place to place? How do we get that? How do we get the electricity? How do we get the energy? How do we repair the leaky roofs? Oh, machines are going to take care of all that for us? Are they going to warehouse us in little cans, little apartments? And what are we going to do, just watch television all day? Rick, this is absolutely terrifying to me, because it sounds to me like we will be allowed and disallowed to do certain things. Like maybe we're allowed to recline and vegetate. Heck, we don't have to watch TV. Just plug in. Just plug into that interface in our arm, and it will tell us what we want to know or not know, or program us just to learn or unlearn. This is absolutely terrifying. Our freedom of movement, freedom of thought, freedom to learn can all be removed by what? Machines. That who builds? We build. This is nuts. Absolutely nuts. And I'm terrified. And I'm not exaggerating.
Well, this is one of the reasons why Matt Stein and I first hooked up with you, and the need to have a sustainable lifeboat. Mm-hmm. Now, with armed combat vets, unorganized, imagine what Agenda 21 is going to be about at that time. And imagine neighborhood by neighborhood, house by house. Good luck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I talked to a guy in the Missouri militia. He knows who I am. I introduced myself. He goes, I know you are. And I don't believe in these conspiracy theories. And we are going to take orders from the government. So whatever the government says, that's what we're going to do. Oh. Wow. So here we have a militia that's going to take orders from the government. Can you imagine that? Rather than do the right thing, whatever the right thing.
National Guard than the rest of it. We have National Guard out here. You know, my neighbor next door, I saw three in his 3-acre bunker next door to me. He has a 3-acre bunker, and he has a bunch of old Czech vehicles that won't go out with the ELF spike. And he's got a bunch of small tanks like the kind our National Guard deploys. I've seen them. It's neighborhood by neighborhood. And watch what happens next.
Rick, what, just on the same line of thinking with young people, the American dream, going to school, working hard, getting a good education, getting that job, getting married, buying the house, raising children, having your children better off than you, better off than your parents, better off than their parents, and so forth. The American dream. When we eliminate all these jobs, heck, you want to go to the fast food joint and learn how to flip hamburgers? Well, that's going to be tough to do in the future because there'll be machines doing that. So what actually are you going to do? Heck, there aren't even the jobs of being behind the counter saying, "Can I take your hamburger order?" They're going away. They're being replaced with computers and screens and keyboards and kiosks and touch screens and so forth. So when you remove from the children the ability to apply things that they've learned in school and learn under a mentorship program, which can be as simple as working at the Golden Arches restaurant and learning how to flip those hamburgers and learning how to greet customers and learning how to operate the cash register and learning how to put French fries in a bag and learning how to operate the fast food drive-through window and learning from the manager who knows a little bit more than maybe the new employee does right out of high school. When you remove those mentorship environments, and that would be the simplest one. A little more complicated might be if you work at a sandwich shop, and you make 5 different varieties of submarine sandwiches. You have to learn the difference between turkey and salami and lettuce. And then you move on to the auto parts store, and you're helping people sell auto parts. When we remove all those opportunities from young people, what do they have left? What do they have to look forward to? What goals and aspirations do they have? Because I had a chance to experience all that stuff except for the McDonald's part. I worked at a submarine sandwich shop. I worked at a gas station. I learned how to fix air conditioning systems, change oil, rotate tires, change brakes, weld exhaust systems. It's kind of cool. I didn't study it in school, but I learned it on my own, and I got more training from the boss at the gas station or at Sears when I worked there, and at the auto parts store when I worked there. Show a little bit of initiative, and they pat you on the back and say, "Good boy." And then they teach you more things that you didn't know. And the more you're willing to learn, and the harder you're willing to work, and the more enthusiasm that you have, and the more stick-to-itiveness that you display, the more they're willing to teach you more. And it's been like that all my life. But what about the young people? How do they get that cool experience or experiences that I've had and you've had? Rick, heck, you displayed the willingness to learn, and they bought you a Bridgeport mill, right?
Yeah, there it is. Just like that.
Just like that. I
learned how to make my own jigs.
Yeah. Yeah. We learned how to make, heck.
You do that today by comic books.
You know, I wanted to put these solar panels up in an array that we built. So what did? We built a jig. Literally, we built a jig that simulated a solar panel so it wouldn't break them, while we were measuring and center punching and drilling and tapping. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. I've got calls stacked. Rick, we only have a couple minutes.
Can you? It's about time we wake everybody up.
Yeah, very quickly, Rick, to get your latest special on
I'm going to come
metaphysics.
out with Metaphysics 4, 5, and 6, hopefully early Monday morning. I've already got them. I'm getting them ready for press right now.
Okay, that's at richardallenmiller.com, right?
Yes, sir. We'll have specials where you can buy all of them cheaper than individual ones, but we're going to be doing, I need the support to keep myself going. This is the only source of income I have right now, my writings.
Okay, that's Richard.
Help me now.
He's not begging. He's saying if you'd like to buy his writings, richardallenmiller.com.
Richard A. Well worth your money. Promise.
There you go. Georgia, New Hampshire, welcome.
Have you noticed, and I think you have too, Vincent, that when I watched the old westerns like Gunsmoke, the original episodes, they were like less than a half hour long, and yet they seem longer than the later ones that were an hour long. And I honestly think that what's happened to humanity now, I think it's even affected our quality of time. What do you think, Dr. Rick, about that?
The quickening, just like in the Bible, and the way you respond to time and the moment. Actually, consider me Mr. Dillon. I'm the Chester guy with the false knee.
Well, and you know, there's another component to this, George, in New Hampshire, and that is when you watch a television program today, they tell you what they're going to tell you, then they tell you, then they go to commercial, then they tell you what they just told you, and then they tell you what they're going to tell you, then they tell you, then they go to a commercial, then they tell you what they just told you, then they go to a commercial. That's part of it, too.
They can jam more into less.
I'll get off because I think you have another phone call behind me, right? So
No, he just gave up.
Okay.
He just gave up because he realized we're short on time. But George, please continue. It's always great to hear you.
Same here, and same to you, Dr. Rick. You guys are a blessing. I was just going to say that, you know what they're saying about cursive, where they're writing longhand and all that, and they've eliminated that to a very large degree?
Yeah.
They say that what they're going to find is that the children's brains are not going to develop properly because by them constructing those words and writing and using those motor skills, they won't develop. And they said, this is just another nail in the coffin.
That's correct. That is correct.
Well, let me ask Rick this follow-up question. Rick, when I learn, if I run it through my brain, whatever it is, more than once, I learn it better, I remember it better. Now, if I am writing, I'm thinking about what I'm writing, so I'm running it through my brain another time while I'm writing it. And then I look at what I just wrote to see if, I did it right, so that's another time. So it's probably 3, 4, 5 times running it through my brain over and over and over and over and over just by writing it. Is that part of this?
Well, yes and no. Comic books. It's visual arts where you have two different senses involved at the same moment. That's how memory is best set. And most of us are visual, which means comic books and speeding it to 4-year-olds. That's what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's the new direction for me. Our children are our most important natural resource. They're the ones that are going to save us from this crap, not you or me.
But even the children, the innocence of children are being stolen, and they're being vaccinated, I hear, is upwards, if it's hard to believe, of 40 or 50 vaccines by the time they hit about 15.
That's right.
And what is that going to do to the quality of their development, to their health, and their ability just to be able to function in a world?
And that's because most of us are functioning out of wounds, not purpose.
And how about that mother who objected to her son being vaccinated? And so what they do? They arrested her. And they vaccinated the child. And then when they let her out, they said they were going to vaccinate him some more. And she said, no. They're going to arrest her again.
That's recommend The Time Machine, the original 1960 version for George Pell. That shows a lot of things to come.
The Time Machine.
It does.
George, thanks so much.
Same bad channel, same bad time.
Dr. Richard Allen Miller, thank you so much.
I'm a survivalist.